Welcome to Mission2Mars Academy online podcast. I'm Tatiana Indina, the founder. Mission2Mars Academy is a Silicon Valley-based accelerator that helps global entrepreneurs to learn about innovation. And today our guest is Mishelle Messina. Mishelle Messina is an author of Decoding Silicon Valley. She is a business innovation consultant and innovation ecosystem builder. As a Silicon Valley expert, Mishelle is specializing on catalyzing entrepreneurial ecosystems worldwide and helping startups find repeatable, scalable, and measurable business models. Mishelle has a great experience working with emerging markets and transitional economies. She, as a business consultant, mentor, and coach, have worked with over 1,000 entrepreneurs from more than 65 countries. Mishelle is the most supportive and inspiring mentor to all global entrepreneurs, and especially to women entrepreneurs. And today we will speak about women's leadership and entrepreneurship. And this is such an amazing topic and very emerging topic in Silicon Valley, very important topic. And we want to hear Michelle's perspective on it. So welcome, Mishelle. Thank you for joining us today. And I guess my first question to you will be, what actually female leadership and entrepreneurship is as a phenomenon? Why is this a separate term for it, and how it is different from male entrepreneurship and leadership? So what this topic is all about?
Tatiana, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. I think that as I've traveled the world over the last few years, I've seen predominantly male entrepreneurs in the tech space, but the data represents a little bit different story from the perspective of women being really good leaders, almost better entrepreneurs, but definitely have a different style and a different approach when they're building companies. I think some of the differences that I've found working with female entrepreneurs and also working as a corporate employee for both male and female bosses, or acting as a boss with a both male and female team. What I see the difference with female leaders and entrepreneurs is that women tend to listen in a different way than men do. They tend to be more nurturing of their team, have a different type of empathy and compassion for the people that they work with. And they tend to be more focused on building a stronger team and a stronger community, either inside their organization or even extending outward of their organization to their partners and customers. And I think the other things that I've seen are women have a different type of emotional intelligence than men do. And they tend to respond in crisis in a very hands-on, problem-solving manner. So we've got a situation here. How do we resolve it as quickly as possible? One thing I really like about working with female entrepreneurs is that they are very flexible, that they're willing to take input and adjust the plans or the programs or the initiatives to incorporate that input. So those are some of the things that I really have noticed about female entrepreneurs that I've seen around the world, and also working as a corporate employee, working for female and male bosses.
I always had this, being a female entrepreneur myself, I always had this kind of biases towards this topic, and I was thinking, why would we discriminate women as women? We would discriminate ourselves another time by putting us in a separate category and like have a separate term for us. Just basically you go to all these female entrepreneurs conferences, there will be only women there, and that's quite discriminating, right? So we're kind of discriminating against ourselves. So I just want to think if there is really some specific topics that women as entrepreneurs and founders should discuss separately, and what those topics would be. For example, what would be the typical challenges that female entrepreneurs face today? And you travel a lot, maybe not just in Silicon Valley, but globally, on a global scale. What are those problems that women have to discuss separately as business leaders?
Well, I think if you look at consumer product buying decisions, women influence almost 85% of the decisions that take place from a buying perspective, at least in the United States. So everything from the paint on the walls to the type of cleaning products that we use in our homes to, in many cases, the electronics that we use on a regular daily basis. So the interesting thing is that with women influencing or controlling those purchasing decisions, we still have a great deal of male founders and male entrepreneurs that are building products that women are influencing or buying on a daily basis. And so what I think is an opportunity for female leaders and female entrepreneurs is to build and create more products and services that are very, very tightly tailored to the female buying power that's out there in the market. Products, everything from wellness to sexual health to well-being to personal care products and things like that, that there's an opportunity for women leaders to create products that are basically in the ideation and creation phase, come from a woman's brain and are designed to serve the needs of a woman. On the other side of it, it's like we have less female entrepreneurs around the world than we do male entrepreneurs. And I think where our opportunity to truly change that is to stimulate more women entrepreneurs at the top of the funnel, and also more women on angel, venture, and corporate investment committees. And I think it will be easier for women to see the value of those female founders and the products and services that they're creating, rather than have a male venture capitalist say, oh, that's really interesting, let me take it home to my wife and get her opinion on it.
Speaking of culture, we know the tech world is dominated by men, right? And Silicon Valley is the epicenter of tech world globally. So do you think that's this glass ceiling that when women are fighting for their rights, take those positions as board members, as founders, as investors, does this glass ceiling exist in Silicon Valley, which is we consider a very progressive, innovative ecosystem, and where we can find proof that it exists, if it does?
It's a hard question to answer in the sense of, does it really exist, or is it self-created by women because they have 10 million things going on in their life, many more things going on in their life than perhaps a man does? Or is it actually created because there's biases in the industry against women and what their abilities are with respect to managing and leading a company, seeking outside capital, building a business that has sustainable, repeatable revenue. So it's hard to say if it's chicken or egg, so to speak. But I think that for women to be successful, they have to really know their stuff, their industry, their product, their business, their competition. They have to know that inside and out, and sometimes more so than a man, just to present the air of confidence and strength. And they also have to ask for more money in the funding process. I think that when women go out for capital, a lot of times they tend to play a smaller game, when in fact they really can play a big game. So it's really kind of rallying the resources for confidence and to ask for more money than they might otherwise. So those are different sort of things I'm touching on, but in reality, the data says that women are very good business managers, very good leaders, very good financial managers. And so we need to celebrate that and take advantage of that and encourage more women to become entrepreneurs. And do we need to start that in the school systems? Maybe we do. Maybe we need to have more examples of female entrepreneurs for middle schooler and high schooler girls to look up to.
I always want to believe that when somebody gets funded or doesn't get funded as a startup, that happens because that project is really good and it meets all the metrics that investors have, not because it was founded by man or woman. And when something doesn't get funding, it's just not because it was funded by woman, but because it was just not good enough of a project. I really want to believe that, but definitely we know that there are things happening in between those two worlds that need to probably be spoken about more. And speaking about winning strategies for women, and we know they have to be more assertive and have more confidence and present themselves more assertively at those meetings and in business in general. So what would be some of your recommendations? What are the successful female leadership strategies that you would recommend female founders to apply when they raise money, when they present their business, when they lead their business, when they have to interact in this very diverse business environment? So some of the best practices from Mishelle.
So I think to be a successful female entrepreneur, it really helps to be a good listener and be coachable, and to surround yourself as an entrepreneur with people that give you good feedback and advice, that genuinely care about your success and well-being, but that are not going to sugarcoat, so to speak, their advice. They're going to give you the straight scoop and help you become a better CEO. So coachability and listening skills is the first. And then second thing is really to surround yourself with people that want to see you be successful. And then thirdly, know your stuff. So know your stuff inside and out, know your market, know the funding process, know what it means to raise capital. Those are some of the important advices and recommendations that I would give to female entrepreneurs. And then last thing is, plan, make a realistic plan for your business and follow through on it, and be able to have supporters that you can check in with on a regular basis to help you understand what you can do differently to meet your goals and objectives more effectively. So those are kind of my top tips.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the pitfalls, some of the potential risks or mistakes that female founders, female entrepreneurs do, and you would kind of warn them against doing that? One of the things that I learned, and I was advised that this is the culture of Silicon Valley, it's different in many different countries, but we had some basic advice, such as dress neutrally, do not like overdress when you go to those meetings, to not try to attract more attention to your appearance than to your project. This is like one of the basic recommendations probably. So to kind of avoid those gender differences to play any role in the meeting. But what would be some of the other maybe more significant advice from you?
I think that rather than dressing too feminine or too masculine, I think the point that you made about dressing neutrally and not calling attention to oneself is good advice. The other thing that I would suggest probably that's very valuable is to not play a small game, to show your potential investors, for example, in the fundraising process, that you really do have a big vision, you're willing to play a big game, and you have a plan, a realistic plan that makes sense. And I think that those things are going to help build the confidence of the female entrepreneur herself, and also communicate and telegraph that confidence to the investor. I think that female entrepreneurs will, as they go through the fundraising process, experience, subtle bias here and there. And they just have to recognize that it's there and say, that might not be the right partner for my company. And, it was a good experience pitching to that investor, but I need to probably move on to somebody who's much more supportive of what I'm doing.
Okay, great. So what are some of the other mistakes or risks that maybe some of the cases that you've seen working and mentoring female founders? Would be some more like top mistakes or top pitfalls for female entrepreneurs in business world and in tech world?
I think that the the female entrepreneurs that I've worked with, that I've mentored and coached, tend to take a slightly more cautious, more systematic way of building the business. And the systematic is okay. The cautious sometimes might hold them back from taking a bolder risk that perhaps a male founder might take. And that's okay. Sometimes that's personal styles, sometimes that's factors in the market. It could be associated with the competition or the complexity in the market, so there might be a number of different factors there. But I think that women tend to be a little bit more circumspect and patient in their decision making. And I don't necessarily consider that a shortcoming. I just consider it a difference in the way our brains are wired and how we make decisions.
Thank you, Mishelle. I want to ask about your personal experience as a female leader and founder and expert and mentor. So what are some of the rules that you follow in your style, and what would be the good tips that you could share from your personal insights, your personal discoveries?
So I have learned over the years what I'm really good at. And I've learned some things that I'm not good at, or things, actually, it was starting out with things I don't like to do. I realized I wasn't good at them later. And trying to stay within a range of things that I'm good at and that I enjoy doing has been a good sort of guiding star for me. For example, I could never teach a class on finance or accounting. And I always hire someone to help me with my own monthly bookkeeping and my taxes and things like that, because it's not something I like to do. But I think that it's been very common for me to be the only woman in a room full of men. In my career, meeting with government personnel or university personnel or corporate accelerators, for example, and talking to them about some options and possibilities for their programs. I've always tried to maintain a very diplomatic way of delivering my messages, and possibly that's because my father was a diplomat. So I've learned to take some of those communication skills and turn it into business diplomacy, I guess. But I try to be as non-personal about the feedback and communication that I give someone, and try to be as objective as possible in looking at different sides of a situation. And then I think that the other thing that served me well is self-deprecating humor. So I can make jokes about myself, my culture, my country, things like that, because we all can chuckle about ourselves. And sometimes that's a good way to help people relax and feel like the other person is human. So for them to feel like I'm human, I make jokes about myself.
Amazing. So humor always helps. However, it not always helps our female founders who are sometimes speak about, and they would complain about certain behavior of men leaders who have higher statuses, higher positions. For example, I could hear things when female founders would go for a meeting with an investor to present her project, and instead of getting an investor interested in her project, she would get a date invitation after this meeting, right? And that would be kind of some kind of double game there. Like, is it like a point to start building a relationship? Definitely probably not the best strategy, or like otherwise you're going to just lose that investor. So this is number one complaint that I hear quite often. Number two complaint, so they do not really take those girls and founders, sometimes they are very young, they do not take them seriously, and they think that, yeah, you're a girl, number one, and number two, only you're maybe a startup founder, but we don't know about that yet. And a second thing I hear a lot, that so many organizations and even in Silicon Valley, because and those are real feedbacks that I heard from female founders, those organizations and angel groups, even in boards of directors of certain funds, when they even openly declare on their website that they support female founders, I've heard female founders are trying to reach out to them many times and not hearing back from them, never though the mission of the organization would be to support female founders. But then this female founder would be trying to reach out and send multiple emails, but she will never get response. And those people having this experience, they end up thinking that, okay, this is all a declaration, but there is no actual intention to support female founders. So how would you suggest maybe to address those problems, like those at least two cases that I mentioned right now, because those are real life examples that I know?
Yes, you're correct. I have heard similar stories of female founders being hit upon by venture capital investors, male venture capital investors. It was awkward and uncomfortable for the women. The situation is, even though we've had a lot of the Me Too movement in Silicon Valley the last few years, and there's a number of different places you can go for informal vetting of male venture capitalists that are open to female founders only. So these networks online that we're aware of, that's still occurring, unfortunately, and it will probably still continue to occur. So I guess the real question is, what is a female founder supposed to do in the event of that particular situation? And the answer is really to do, I think, to directly, in a kind and nice way, ask the venture capitalists if they are in fact hitting upon them, and if they are, politely decline the opportunity to, go on a date or have dinner. I think the most important thing is to do it in a fun, sort of relaxed way, without being negative or nasty about it, just because Silicon Valley is a very small place, and we all talk to one another, we all know one another, and we all know how to check up on people in a very informal way to figure out whether or not somebody's the right person to deal with. So I think in a relaxed, sort of casual way, you can basically turn down the offer without burning any bridges. The second issue that you brought up is really important. So you're talking about investors that have a stated commitment on their website to invest in female founders, yet when the female founders reach out to the organization, there is little to no reply from the organization. And that is actually not uncommon with venture capitalists. They tend to respond much better to a warm introduction by a founder from one of their own portfolio companies, from an investor in another firm. That's part of the old guard network, I think, that still continues to exist in Silicon Valley and will continue on for a while. However, I think there are lots of organizations that are committed to investing in female founders. For example, Forerunner in Silicon Valley has a mostly female team. There's the Female Founders Fund on the East Coast. There's Cowboy Ventures in Silicon Valley that has at least 2 female investment partners. So there are other alternatives and options that can be pursued, yet it's a hard choice to make when you have a cybersecurity company and the ideal investor for you is investor A, who has a deep network of companies in their portfolio that are in the cybersecurity space that could really help you. So it's a hard thing when those kinds of things happen. But I think that with as much grace and comfort, with as much grace and calm as you can to to deal with those issues is better, because it is a small valley in Silicon Valley, and it's a small, tightly connected network of entrepreneurs around the world too. It's easy to drop into a country and get connected to people who could be of value to you.
Yeah, always stay positive. That's the main advice. And yeah, you're right. Sometimes
Yes.
with humor, even things can be solved easily, because we all are humans at the end of it.
Yes.
But speaking of support to all these female entrepreneurs and early stage startup entrepreneurs, what kind of support do we need today for those groups? What should governments do? What should VCs do? NGOs, other organizations? What are your advice and recommendations to each one of those stakeholders that must play a role into like combating this problem of discrimination of women, if it still exists, surprisingly, though there are so many public discussions? So what do we need to do all together, and each one of us separately, to foster female entrepreneurship?
I think there's lots of members of the startup / entrepreneurial community. And so within your own region, wherever that may be, who are those players that have resources that could be of value to a female entrepreneur, whether they are funding resources or in-kind resources like training and mentoring and coaching and network connections and things like that. So I think, number one, understanding your startup community is really, really important. Finding examples of other entrepreneurs, male, female, or otherwise, that have been successful building their business in a sector that's aligned with yours. That can be a great source of mentorship and coaching for your own business. And then thirdly, I think reaching out to the different partners in the ecosystem, whether they be venture capitalists, corporate accelerators, co-working spaces, accelerators, et cetera, building relationships with them to understand the types of resources that are available, and those that have made a formal commitment to serving and supporting female entrepreneurs. That's a great place to start. So then the question becomes, does the entrepreneur know exactly where she is, what stage she is in currently with her business? And does she understand what resources might benefit her at this particular time? It's interesting, in my work with entrepreneurs across the spectrum and across the globe, I find that they feel they are further ahead in their business than they actually are. And so sometimes that self-awareness, knowing that you're still in the MVP phase, the minimum viable product phase, and validating your product, and you haven't actually gotten to growth or scale phase, that's important to know, because it's easier for you to find the resources that will be of benefit to you. But from an NGO perspective, VCs, governments, universities, et cetera, their stated commitment to serving and supporting the needs of female entrepreneurs is a really good start. Then the question becomes, what are the resources, and how easy do they make that process? How easy do they make those resources available to female entrepreneurs? And the reason I say that is because in some countries in the world, I have seen the formal stated commitment by government agencies, and then this bureaucratic, long, difficult, complicated process to even qualify for those resources. So it's almost a sort of an automatic hindrance to participating in those programs. So I think that if a government or NGO is going to make resources available, they need to think from the mindset of the entrepreneur and make the process as easy, seamless, and as electronic as possible.
I think this is amazing recommendation for governments and all those bureaucrats to start thinking as entrepreneurs. I think it can be applied to pretty much anything.
Exactly.
Governments do.
And they may even want to look at the e-government initiative that started more than 10 years ago in Estonia. And things are so darn easy there, whether it's paying your parking ticket, paying your taxes, or getting becoming a citizen there. It's easy and seamless because it's all electronic. Whereas in countries I've been into in Africa, you have to go get a piece of paper, you have to get it signed, you have to walk up 3 flights of stairs, and then you have to pass, a little bit of currency to the person to sign the paperwork, and then you have to walk somewhere else. And, it's this whole process of just obstacle after obstacle. So it's not a consistent commitment to supporting entrepreneurs, whether they're male, female, or otherwise.
Yes, Mishelle. So with all these women organizations and women waving those flags, female entrepreneurship, support women, Me Too, all those things, women's rights, I feel men are already pretty scared enough. But my main question is, so do you see, being also very experienced player in this arena for many years, so do you see the change throughout those years with all those movements happening and becoming more and more intense with each year? So do you think this is really affecting the community and the way things are?
Honestly, I think it's moving slow in Silicon Valley. I find more female entrepreneurs outside the US, whether it be Latin America, the Middle East, Europe, not so much in Asia. But I certainly do see more female entrepreneurs in Latin America and Europe. I feel like things still move quite slowly in Silicon Valley with respect to this, even though we have a lot of very smart people in the Valley. And it just seems to be taking a lot of time for a lot of these things to really make significant visible differences. So I remain hopeful, but on the other hand, I see things happening elsewhere, especially in smaller countries that are more nimble with smaller populations, and they're able to change more quickly than a large country like the US or even Silicon Valley itself. So I remain hopeful, but it's still slow.
Okay, can you tell us about some of the positive examples when it was a great outcome from any of these female founders support programs or initiatives, maybe not in United States, maybe in other countries? So when you saw the change actually happening and something great coming out from this, some unique startup story that was born in those programs or acceleration programs, so, or something else that would demonstrate a significant result or change of all those, from all those efforts that we have today?
Yeah, I've worked with the Telefonica Wayra program in Latin America in a number of different countries, and can remember one female entrepreneur in particular who, at the beginning of the Wayra Academy, was quite quiet and quite shy, and she was feeling, I suspect, a little bit overwhelmed by. She was the only female founder out of a cohort of 12 companies. And I think by the third day after watching her, I finally decided it was time for me to, maybe just sit and understand what her situation and her story was. And she shared with me, how she got there, what the idea was behind her company, et cetera, et cetera. And we finished the masterclass a couple of days later, and I agreed to mentor her on kind of a biweekly basis for about 6 months. And the end of the story basically is that in coaching and mentoring her, we kind of helped her find what she's really good at, finds things that really drive and inspire her passion on a regular basis, to the point that about a year after the masterclass ended, she was able to raise $1.6 million in her Series A. And about 2.5 years later, she sold the company. So for her, it was a great exit. And it was a really nice opportunity to get to know somebody through their own personal development. So I think that it's a little bit of, just trying to help understand the person as a whole and what will help them sort of propel themselves to greatness, because everything they want is just behind the fear. And if they can get past the fear, then everything is right there for them.
I 100% agree that believing in yourself, being assertive is half of the things that can bring you success. And we know those statistics and the research when an average man, when he checks, 5 boxes out of 10, he thinks, yeah, I'm good enough, I'm gonna go for this job, for this position. And average woman, when she checks 9 boxes out of 10, she's like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough yet, I should go learn, study more, and work more hard, and then maybe next year I will apply. So I mean, you're exactly right. And I believe many of us do need a great mentor. And I think in this case you described, what really played a role in this female's story, that you're mentoring Mishelle. So which I think we should talk more about. And but more generally speaking, what would be your advice? How can a woman entrepreneur, founder, find the right mentor for herself? What would be the right way to find that mentor, and how to approach a mentor, how to ask for mentoring? What are the best practices in this area?
So I think mentorship is an important part of being a CEO, regardless of your gender. Having someone who has your back, so to speak, and wants you to be successful is really invaluable support and assistance that founders need. The best way to find a mentor is to connect with people that you like and trust, and that you feel are going to give you feedback, valuable feedback, in a non-judgmental way. And what I mean by that is someone who's going to ask you good questions. For example, if you think about mentors like family members, perhaps your grandfather will tell you stories about his life and his history. Your father might tell you what to do, but your mother might be the one to ask you questions about how you think and feel about something, for example. And I think that you have to sort of use that idea as a framework to find a good mentor. Someone who's not going to tell you what to do, is not going to recite a lot of their own personal history to you, but that genuinely cares about you and supports you and is willing to help guide you a little bit, but ask you questions about what you think and feel, because it's your business, it's your decision, it's your choices that have to be made at the end of the day. And whether it succeeds or rockets its way to the moon, it's all dependent upon what you as the female CEO and founder of the company decide to do, because it's your company.
Amazing. I wanted to ask also, what are some of your favorite role models of females maybe in your life who inspired you, or maybe some interesting famous public figures that you consider to be good role models for other female entrepreneurs today? Can you drop some names?
Well, I'll drop the name of my mother, because my mother's always been a strong role model for me, Donna. And I dedicated my book, Decoding Silicon Valley, to her, to my father, and to my daughter. So my mother is a good role model because I think she's tough and tenacious, and she still is to this day. I also had the honor of meeting Secretary Hillary Clinton, and worked on the Pathways to Prosperity program for the State Department. And I think she's always been a role model for me, because I think she's also tough, tenacious, and she knows her stuff. And so I think that's important. And I think that as time goes on, we're starting to see more female CEOs in the Fortune 500. Now there's more than ever. Unfortunately, it's only 33 out of the Fortune 500, but all those CEOs that are running those big companies, I really appreciate them, because it's a challenge to get to the top of an organization like that. Regardless of your gender, it's a challenge to get to the top of the organization. So I would say the 33 Fortune 500 CEOs that are in office today, I have a lot of respect for them.
Amazing. And to summarize some of the qualities that can help female entrepreneurs succeed today, what would be your top 10 list of skills, of qualities, of certain experiences that maybe strategies or tools that will help our entrepreneurs succeed?
I think from a personal characteristics, certainly emotional intelligence, listening skills, empathy, teamwork, community building, and flexibility, and also good in a crisis, because let's face it, if you're running a startup, you're going to have at least one crisis a week. Maybe it's a small crisis, maybe it's a large crisis, but it's challenging to be a founder and run a company. And then I think the other thing is, surround yourself with people that support you, that want you to be successful. And the third thing is figure out what are the right metrics to track in your business. What are your quarterly, monthly, annual milestones that you want to achieve? And learn to do 360 evaluations of everybody on your team, including yourself, so that you can become better as a human being and build a stronger culture within your company.
Amazing. Speaking of education for female founders and leaders, and courses that they need, or mentoring programs that they need, I know that you have a very interesting course on female leadership, entrepreneurship. What is there? What are the things that you're teaching? What will those founders get after attending this course? How they can benefit from it? And what are other opportunities to learn are there today that you can recommend?
Yeah, so one of the courses that we just beta tested in this week here in Europe is a female leadership program. And my colleague has a lot of experience training women leaders in 100% capacity leadership. And I bring the startup side to it, understanding the challenges of being in a startup, the phases that you go through to build your company. And what we've done basically is try that helps founders understand where they are in the growth phase of their company, their startup, and then what are the leadership skills that are prescriptive at that particular state of maturity. And as I said, we just beta tested it this past week in Europe and got some great feedback on it. And now our goal is to enhance it and refine it even further, and enhance the tools, the assessment tools that we've created for that. So we're going to be rolling it out on a more official basis over the next 60 days. So that's something that we've been working on, my colleague and I, on that, to really give women much more of a fighting chance from a leadership perspective, so that they can grow their companies more successfully. And we hope at one point in time that we'll be able to take a portfolio of 10 or 20 companies from a VC and work with those teams for over the course of 2 years to see if we can help increase their odds of success. But I think that, we've talked about personality characteristics. We've talked about, tools and metrics and things like that. There's a lot of great resources out there online. Silicon Valley Forum has a number of great short videos about building your company, about fundraising, various different things like that. So that's the great thing about being an entrepreneur, is a lot of these resources are free and available to everyone. So I really appreciate that aspect of being part of the global entrepreneurial community.
Amazing, and I hope our conversation today also will help those leaders to get some useful tips and advice from some of the great experts that we have. And also, I want to encourage everyone to come check out Mission2Mars Academy website, where we will soon launch Mishelle Messina's course on female leadership and entrepreneurship. So please follow us and sign up, subscribe, and definitely join. So I guess my last question, and it's amazing, by the way, just talking to you. I think we could do that for hours and learn so much from you.
Probably. We'd have to have a cup of coffee to go with it, though.
Absolutely. So it's such an interesting topic also. It's just endless topic to discuss. And I wish we have more specific formats for this, such as meetup groups. And this is something I want to consider to organize meetup groups.
It's a great idea, Tatiana. Great idea.
To talk about our female founders' issues, one of which can be actually balancing family life and business. We know that social roles have shifted significantly. Maybe today nobody expects a woman already to be just a housekeeper and like babysit children 24/7, and men participate more in those family activities, but so on. But still, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done by a woman when she has a family, she has children, she has her parents, relatives to take care of. And then, yet she wants to be a successful leader. That requires so much work. We know Elon Musk works 20 hours a day. And as a female founder, you want to succeed, but you kind of don't have 20 hours a day to contribute to your work. So what would be your advice, how to balance personal life and business in order to be a successful female founder?
Okay, so my first comment is, in my personal experience, there is no such thing as work-life balance. I have come to the conclusion after many years of trying to make this work personally, it is work-life blend. So the reason I say work-life blend is because it's about different priorities at different times of the day. It's about recognizing when we are best mentally at certain functions during the day. So for example, if you ask me to write something for you, I might write it at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, but I will never send it to you at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll send it to you at 6 o'clock the next morning, because my ability to conceptualize things and really smoothly edit them or write them is best in the morning. So I've recognized that about myself. I've also recognized that I love technology. I love to be connected. And then I love to be disconnected as well. So I try to look at the day as sort of a set of blocks of time. And quite honestly, I don't, since I work, when I am home in Silicon Valley, I work from my home office generally. So I don't work straight 8 hours at my desk. I'll work, 6 hours and not work for 4 hours, and then come back to it for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, whatever's necessary. So I've learned to recognize them in my mental levels. And I've also recognized the fact that I have a lot of stuff to do on a daily basis. And sometimes I'm really good at scheduling and blocking out time to do certain things. And other times I'm just not really good, and I don't get up off the sofa, and I don't go work out. So I think that it's about blending. It's about, even when my daughter was young, it was about blending time. When she was doing her homework, I was sitting across the kitchen table from her working on something. We were doing similar things. We were both writing, for example. But it's about blend. It's just about acknowledging that women are superheroes. We will always be superheroes, and we will always be doing 10,000 things more than we thought possible. And if we can understand that it's just about trying to blend it all together as best we can, because we're all human and we're all works in progress, it'll work out in the end, and our children won't be any worse off because of it. Our house won't be any dirtier because of it, and things just get done. But in the end, it's just about blending it all, because that's who we are. We are multifaceted, well-rounded, super smart entrepreneurs, and we just have to embrace it.
Amazing. I really love your mode, Mishelle. I believe this is also very important, to have the right mood, the right condition, the right energy to believe in what you want will going to happen for you and make it happen. And I really want to take this phrase of you, women are the heroes, as a slogan for our podcast today. So I think
Great.
it's really good to know that you are a superhero and you can do everything.
Hey, we're very cool. We are a very cool gender, Tatiana.
Yes, we can do it, girls, women, ladies. So let's all come together and make sure that the problem of female entrepreneurs as a separate problem does not exist. Okay, well, thank you so much, Mishelle, for talking to us today and sharing your wisdom, sharing your great experience. And I want to invite everyone to get mentoring advice from Mishelle, to get her consulting, get her workshop seminars, and you're going to definitely learn a ton of useful things to drive your business forward. In particular, I want to invite everybody to this forthcoming Female Entrepreneurs program in Silicon Valley and online. And definitely, if you have any questions, please send them to us at Mission2Mars Academy or to Mishelle Messina.